Okay, if everyone will give us just about another minute or so, we're trying to get our Zoom participants up and we'll be ready to start. Okay, we'll get started. We kind of have a small committee that's going to be coming in at 9 o'clock, so we need to go ahead and get this started. Blake. Okay. All right. Representative Gullit, would you mind opening up in a brief prayer this morning? Let's see.
Father God, we bow our heads and our hearts to you, Lord. Give us the wisdom to make the key decisions here to run the state of Georgia. Bless those here in attendance and bless those in the state of Georgia who need your love. In your name we pray, amen.
Thank you, sir. First item on our agenda is going to be House Bill 966. Representative Thomas, if you'd like to step up to the podium and present your bill.
Good morning. Greetings, Mr. Chairman Anderson and members that may be here and on the Zoom today. Thank you for allowing me to present again House Bill 966, the Georgia Solar Awareness Act. I'd like to also thank Legislative Council for working with me on this legislation. And today I do have Mr. Kevin Grimes, who's been very instrumental in helping me to flush out the process. He should be online. Do you have him showing? Okay, great. Mr. Grimes has extensive background in functionality and installation of solar panels, and together we've come up with the inner workings of House Bill 966. So what this bill is requesting, House Bill 966 asks that the Public Service Commission to conduct an approval of curriculum or required elements that must be viewed by customers who wish to purchase solar panel units for their homes prior to making the purchase. And one of the main reasons this is being requested is because of the influx of purchasing and the curiosity of home solar panel units. So what are the issues? Georgia's average cost of solar panel installations range from $12,000 to $17,000 on a cost per watt. However, some units get up to $55,000 per installation. There's a consumer, affair, and fraud element to purchasing of solar panel units, and this bill attempts to accomplish the alleviation of some of those fraud and elements. There has been numerous of cases where our senior citizens population has purchased solar panel units and will never receive a return on investment. And this is partially due to the reason that solar panels are especially designed to soak up the sun and radiation and then use it to generate electricity. Well, many of the panel purchasers do not realize that this is the case, and as a result, people who purchase panels that have a slew of trees that surround their home are leaving with no chance for sun to generate the power needed. There's also an issue where solar panel companies go from door to door, targeting our seniors, explaining that there is no fee for solar panels with tax rebates from the state and the federal government that would offset the cost. This is what they say. Then they turn around and charge a monthly fee to the senior, and we already know that some of our seniors are on fixed incomes. So these fees range from about $50 to $200 a month. They're very costly, and it could be the difference between someone's medication or paying a water or gas bill. Companies also tell seniors that solar panels could have or could save them 20 to 30% to entice the senior citizens who may be on a fixed income. The senior citizen receives their first bill, their second bill, and their third bill, and after the panels are installed with no decrease in their bill, what are they to do? The last thing is that there's installation fees. So these companies will tell the seniors it's a long and grueling process to fill out all this paperwork, and the senior agrees to let the company file the rebates, and then the company charges them thousands of dollars in fees for these rebates. Not to mention, the panel installer tries to lower the cost by using counterfeit equipment or low-grade materials. So that causes additional problems in the short and long run, like the damage to the roofs, cracks in the panels. So as I stated earlier, the ask is a presentation video to be administered and approved by the Service Public Commission, who I have spoken to. They have not taken a position, but they are willing to implement this if this should go forth. As outlined in the bill, 966, which I'll read the LC number into record 364953, on lines 33 through 38, it explains exactly what we're attempting to do, and I'll just read this very quickly. Prior to any solar technology procurement, a solar technology agent shall require the retail consumer to view a solar awareness presentation and to certify that such solar awareness presentation has been viewed in its entirety. The solar technology agent shall maintain such certification for as long as such solar technology agent maintains any records related to such solar technology procurement. This bill, like I say, is asking for a presentation video, which I will allow Mr. Kevin Grimes to go into further. It also asks in line 41 through 51, how this presentation will be set up. It determines the providers approved to conduct or produce such solar awareness presentation. A minimum such solar awareness presentation shall include the ongoing costs and maintenance associated with the solar technology and the current law in the state related to connecting the solar technology to an electric service provider's distribution system and metering. A solar technology agent or third party may submit to the commission a proposed solar awareness presentation, and upon receipt of which the commission shall have 30 days to approve, deny, or indicate which modifications are necessary to the submitted solar awareness presentation. The solar awareness presentation required under subsection A of this code section may be live or pre-recorded and may be made available online via some other format as may be approved by the commission. And at this time, Chairman, I would like to allow Mr. Kevin Grimes to further expound upon the presentation video.
Okay, thank you, and we're pulling that up now.
Thank you.
Okay, and now we'll recognize Mr. Kevin Grimes on Zoom.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for being recognized. I want to speak to a little bit why the video is important. So the video is important because in 2 to 3 minutes, you can provide the audible, audio version of things to be mindful of when evaluating the solar system. We looked at disclosures and all sorts of other options, and I'll just speak to why one was not effective and why the video was a little more. With respect to a disclosure, one of the things you'll hear is that, a disclosure might be the best method as done in real estate. But here are the differences. In real estate, both the buyer and seller are represented by a real estate agent. Both of those individuals are licensed by the state, and there is a board that oversees it. This is not true in solar. Another thing that's true about real estate is that there is an appraiser who assesses the value of the system. That appraiser is also licensed by the state, and there's oversight in the state. There's no such licensure in solar. And then lastly, prior to getting that disclosure, in a real estate transaction, you go to a closing attorney's office. The closing attorney is a neutral third party who's also licensed and regulated by the state. So when you have all those people who are regulated by the state, then yes, a disclosure can be appropriate because there's already licensing, regulation, and things in place to make sure that everyone's held to an ethical standard. None of that exists in solar. There is no state licensor. There is no state board, but we want to skip over all of that. And then the same individuals, some of the same individuals who are causing the problem, we want to let them write a disclosure and then trust them to do a disclosure. That is why the disclosure was not effective. Where again, if you put it into the consumer's hand and allow the consumer and the state to provide an opportunity to provide the education, that's more effective. And lastly, I'll just say this last piece. I'm not a young person. I'm not a super old person, but I don't think I've ever recalled a time in my lifetime where the state, as represented by State Representative Mandisha, the power companies, and the consumers have all agreed that this is a good thing to do. I've never seen it. So again, when you look at who's asking for the video, it's the state, the consumers, and the utility companies. And when you look at who's asking for the disclosures, it's the unregulated body whose members are actually causing the problem. So for me, this was just common sense legislation, which is often, talked about and rarely seen. But again, a 2 to 3 minute video that just explains the high points. North facing solar panels are ineffective. If you're in the shaded area, it's ineffective. Take the cost of your solar system and divide it by your monthly payment. That'll tell you how long it takes for you to break even. Just those basic things that are not designed to either convince or discourage someone from buying solar. Just common sense. These are the things you need to know when purchasing solar. And I digress. And by the way, I'm into solar energy. I support solar. I believe the solar is future, but right now it is not responsible. And as a member of the solar community, I think there is a responsibility to raise awareness. And this is the least intrusive way, because in reality, people could ask for solar licensing and solar regulation. And I think that wouldn't be a stretch. This video, I think, is the least intrusive way on the industry to make sure that the education and awareness is out to the community. And I'll stop there.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Grimes. I believe we have one question here. If I'll recognize Representative Gullit.
Hey, thank you for your testimony. A question related to, it seems like when you're talking about disclosures and you're talking about the video potential, that you're running them as a comparison of one another. Why are you not running them, or why are you not thinking about it as a potential working together? It doesn't have to be an either or proposition. It sounds like you have an either or in your brain, but that's the way you presented it. But why is there a reason that, I know you explained the reasons why you don't like disclosures. I know you explained the reasons of why you like the video, but yeah, do you see it as working together potentially?
Absolutely. There's nothing wrong with the both. And using that same example that I gave real estate, it is both, right? Where the realtors are licensed, they have their obligations. The appraisers are licensed to the state, they have their obligations. The closing attorneys are licensed through the state, and there are still disclosures. So yeah, for me, it's not an either or, it's an and statement. But if there is a scenario where there's a pick one, my choice would be the video. But I am not against having both videos and disclosures. I'm not against that.
Okay, thank you. We have one question online. Representative, you said Drenner? Representative Drenner?
Hi, good morning, everybody. And thank you, Representative Thomas, for a great presentation. The only question that I really have is, and I'm sitting in the car, so excuse me, is going back to the video production. The concern that I've heard is that what if the PSC is not as supportive of solar as you would like it to be? And I just want to make sure that you cleared that up by saying that the video that is to be produced is from the solar company. Is that correct? The solar installer? In other words, who's going to do the video?
Representative Thompson?
Yes. The solar company, and there's some parameters that I read out that would be at minimum, and if they want to add some additional, they would. Mr. Grimes went over some just 3 or 4 just key basic factors that need to be in there that would be the most beneficial to awareness.
And those were break-even analysis, the cost of solar, and the direction of the solar panels. Were those the operating parameters?
I believe so. If Mr. Grimes wants to recap those 3 to 4 items.
Yes, so there's some basic parameters. Again, one, if you're doing an on-grid or a grid-tied installation, it must be permitted. That's one. North-facing solar panels are the least effective in terms of production. A person who gets north-facing panels, their break-even won't occur to 100 years later. Solar panels in heavily shaded areas are ineffective. And then the break-even analysis, how to calculate the break-even analysis to understand when you'll get your rate of return back. I do believe that anyone could write it, and it could be fair. I mean, when I say anyone, I mean the state regulation, and if anyone could write it, as long as they stuck to just those 4 or 5 education points, things that are just scientific facts that aren't disregarded. I'm certified in solar, and these are the basic things that every solar person is taught, that these are the indicators of a bad solar install, and just putting those indicators out there.
Okay, do we have any other questions for Representative Thomas or the testimony? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Next, we have on our agenda House Bill 1494, Representative Gullit. If you'd like to come to the podium and present your bill, sir.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the committee. Bring to you House Bill, the bill you just said, I don't have it in front of me. I have the LC though, LC 510157. And what this bill is actually the other side of this. This is a disclosure bill that was talked about. And I want to go through a minute. I think the same reasons for the previous Representative Thomas's reasons for what's going on with some bad actors in the space need to be addressed. These include high pressure sales tactics, misleading projections of consumer cost savings, and ultimately this is a consumer protection issue. One mechanism that over a dozen states have already successfully employed to address this is contract disclosures for solar, and that they are included to execute solar contracts. This disclosure will ensure customers have access to key assumptions that were made that they can reference and verify in order to help them guard against misleading and inaccurate sales information. And I believe this is a good first step in the defense of solar scams and bad actors. I don't think it's the final step, but I do think it's a good first step. We'll go through the bill quickly. I know we're touched on time. It's slightly long, so just bear with me. But I think it's important that you see how complex this process is when you're purchasing these systems. Line 14 through 26 are definitions. Those are just common. 463601, starting at line 27, is where we state that the installation of these services must be completed by the licensed electrical contractor. 463602 is the actual disclosure details. This is what's going to be provided in the disclosure. Line 37 is the buyer or lessee information, the name, address. Line 38 is the installation contractor's information, or name, address, license number, etc. Line 41 is the maintenance contractor information. Line 45 is a written statement highlighting whether they are purchasing or leasing the system. Line 55 is the total cost to be paid by the buyer or lessee over the life of the agreement. 57, the payment schedule information. 62, line 62 is documenting the state or federal rebates or tax incentives. Line 64 is the assumption that is used to calculate the savings. Line 68 is the fee disclosures. Line 71 is a cautionary statement if the buyer is financing the purchase. Line 77 is another cautionary statement if the seller is assisting with the financing of that system. Line 83 is notifying the buyer or lessee of a cooling off period of at least 3 days, and I think that's important. If there are high pressure sales tactics on these things, then this at least gives the buyer the ability to pause and maybe talk to people that they trust about these assumptions in here. Line 89 is the system size and generation assumptions. 98 is the performance or production guarantees. Line 99 is the ownership of tax credits, rebates, and incentives. And generally, if the homeowner agrees to a solar lease or power purchase with a third-party system owner, the homeowner will be unable to take advantage of these incentives, so that's important that they know this. Line 103 is property tax disclaimer. 107 is the installation timeline or schedule. Line 109 is the disclosure as to whether the maintenance or repairs are included in the price. Line 111 is the disclosure as to whether the warranty or maintenance obligations can be sold or transferred. Line 117 is the requirements for interconnecting the system to the utility system, also known as connecting to the grid. This procedure involves ensuring that the system complies with local utility technical and administrative prerequisites and applicable codes and standards. Line 119 will notify who is responsible for getting approval to connect to the grid. Line 121 is a description of any roof warranties. Line 122 is a notification for lessees as to whether the seller will insure the system against damages. Line 125 is a statement as to whether the buyer is responsible for obtaining insurance coverage. Line 129 is a lien disclosure. Line 132 is a fixture filing disclosure, and that's when a solar installation is financed through a lease or power purchase agreement. The third party owns the system. A fixture filing allows the third party to legally take possession of the system if the contract is breached. Repossession. A fixture filing can make it more complicated for a homeowner to refinance or convey their property. And a homeowner seeking to sell or refinance the home may need to have a fixture filing released by paying off the remaining contract. Line 135, it is a disclosure about the ability to modify or transfer ownership and saying it's subject to review by a third party. 139 is a disclosure on the transferability of the lease agreement upon the sale of property. Line 142 is additional section for the seller to provide additional information. And line 144 will allow that the statement to be sent electronically if the intended recipient acknowledges its receipt. And the reason I go through all of these different lines is to show how complex the process is to buy one of these, all of the information that's used to make a good decision. And if you're under a high-pressure sales tactic, which some of the bad actors do put on these people, they usually go door-to-door, like Representative Thomas said, you're getting all this information. You can't digest it all, so you have it in writing before you, so hopefully you can do some research for those 3 days, at least 3 days of a cooling-off period. Section 463603 tells the PSC that they'll adopt the rules to implement and enforce the provisions. And it also tells the commission they should publish the standard disclosure forms by January 1st, 2023. And here's the teeth of the matter. We give the individuals who are purchasing or leasing this all of this information that they can have. Section 463604 adds a civil penalty if they willfully or intentionally violate any provision of this article. So if they give bad information, that allows the person who just got ripped off to file suit civilly to collect damages against that. So that's the teeth. This gives the ability to have all the information that was provided to them by the seller. And this is what they told me. Here's the calculations that they used. and this is not what I'm receiving. This is not what's happening for my grid, for the bad actors. Or this is not what's happening for my bills that's coming down. They have it in writing as part of the contract. That's what they use to sue. And Section 463605 states that who this disclosure does not apply to, and there are a few there. This is modeled in, like I said, multiple states, over a dozen states. We use Florida's really as a basis for what we did here. And again, I think this is a good first step for us to figure out how to bring these bad actors in as we continue to learn about the solar environment and the process. It's just a new process, and these are very, very expensive systems, and people aren't used to knowing how to buy them or what to look for. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, Representative Gillett, we do have one question in the room here from Representative Montahan.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Representative Gullit, for bringing this bill. I think I'm honored to know where this bill, or part of the reason why this bill came to fruition. And isn't it true that our local EMC, we had a great meeting with a lot of different regional reps and senators where they described this problem to each one of us and gave us very compelling stories about how consumers were being hurt in a financially disastrous way, installing systems that were either way larger than they could ever use, or installed on angles of houses that gets little to no sunlight, or under humongous shade trees, and just all sorts of kind of bad and ill-proposed ideas, and they're just being thrown out. And that this bill here is doing something to help stave some of that off, to make sure that these are licensed people who are going to do a good job for the citizens of Georgia.
Yeah, to my friend, 100%. That meeting was very insightful. I think it was EMC is Greystone is our EMC out where we live, and it was really sad to hear the stories of what was happening. And a lot of times the EMCs and the power companies are the ones who get the brunt of the abuse after the bad actors already installed this, and the person is not receiving either the benefit of that installation. So hey, I was told my power bill is going to go to zero, or go to be a lot cheaper, and it's not. And they're angry at the power companies because they're still getting charged, and they feel like the power companies are at fault for overcharging them, when really the system is the one that was installed on the north end under some trees. And a lot of times these are people who are on fixed incomes and older. Yes, you know exactly what you speak. So thank you for that question.
And Mr. Chairman, if you'll indulge me, I got a few more comments I'll make. And Representative, isn't it true that some of the stories we heard included people or salesmen of these particular companies who had, fake Georgia Power or EMC badges on as they walked through communities peddling cheap solar systems?
100%, yes.
Okay. Well, I thank you very much, and I can again agree with you. I tell you, there's one thing that'll get us motivated, and that is people ripping off the good people of Paulding County. And I appreciate you bringing this bill.
Thank you.
Okay, and we have on Zoom Representative Dreier.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Gullit, excuse me, I think that your bill is outstanding, and I'm wholeheartedly supportive of it. And you may not know the answer to this, but I'm going to make my comment anyway. Representative Thomas's bill, House Bill 966, is kind of like the precursor to your bill. Both of them seek to protect consumers. And I noticed on the agenda today that only your bill is getting a vote. And I would really like to vote in the affirmative for both bills to move forward. They are different approaches, and yet they both are designed to protect from bad actors. So I just wanted to make that comment to you, Mr. Chairman, and to you, Representative Gullit.
Representative Gould, Representative Dreier, thank you for the comment. We're actually holding a hearing only on both bills today, so we've kind of adjusted that focus a little bit. So, but thank you for the comment. Do we have any other questions? Okay, at this point we have, thank you, Representative Gullit.
Thank you.
We do have someone signed up to speak to the bill, and Mr. Don Moreland with Georgia Solar Energy, if you'd like to approach the podium. You had signed up to speak to both bills, so we kind of held that till the end. That's the only sign up we had, so when he finishes, if anyone else would like to speak, if you'll just let us know up front, we'll recognize you.
Thank you very much for having me and hearing these two important bills about consumer protections for solar energy in Georgia. My name is Don Moreland with the Georgia Solar Energy Association, and I just want to make a couple of comments and then about the issue itself. Georgia Solar Energy Association was established about 14 years ago. It's been one of the main solar 501c3 nonprofit advocacy and education organizations in Georgia for a very long time. And I have been in this industry for a very long time as well, longer than I care to admit, but I'm going on year 12 now. And I've been a member of Georgia Solar for quite a while. And just to level set some of the conversation is a lot of what we're talking about are things that have just kind of come upon the solar scene in recent years. Members of the Georgia Solar Energy Association have been around for a long time. It's a tight-knit community. We have ethical standards in place that we go by, and any member of that organization or any other solar organizations in Georgia worth their salt do properly and ethically abide by things that these two bills are designed to protect against. What we're talking about is just a small handful of very loud bad actors that are out there making life, a little bit more difficult for the rest of us. So I just want to kind of put that into perspective. This is a novel situation, and these are out-of-state actors that they're fly-by-night. Sometimes we don't even know who they are and who owns these companies and how to really get in touch with them. No email addresses, no phone numbers. So I thought it was important just to kind of, level set that part of it and make sure when we are talking about consumer protections, whether it be a video or whether it be disclosures, that we're doing so in a way that doesn't throw the baby out with the bathwater, where it's not going to cause an onerous situation that's going to add a tremendous amount of time and resources for the upstanding ethical companies who have been here for many, many years to be able to conduct business in Georgia. So I think it's just really important as we consider these protections that we strike a balance between what is thoughtful regulation and how we should approach this matter with solar companies' ability to continue to do business here for a long time. Georgia is known as the #1 state in the country to do business, and we want to make sure that continues for the solar industry in Georgia. I do have a whole bullet list of things that I've looked at for HB 966 and Representative Gould's bill. I don't know if I need to get into all of that right now. I'm happy to. I don't want to waste the committee's time so much, but just one other thing I want to say, in addition to making sure we strike that right balance, is whenever we engage or a third party, say the Public Service Commission, would be involved with either a video or promulgating these disclosures, I would ask that we make sure that that's done in a very calculated way with a proper framework that really spells out exactly what the intentions of these bills are for the commission to be able to execute upon. Solar has taken off quite a bit in Georgia. We're ranked in the top 10 in the country, but overwhelming majority of that is with utility scale solar. The rooftop solar market, which is what we're talking about here today with consumer protections, is still coming along. There's still barriers to rooftop solar, and we don't want to create another barrier by over-regulating and overburdening these good companies that have been here for a long time, that have been following the rules and following these proper disclosures for a long time. The last thing I'll say is, moving forward, the Georgia Solar Energy Association has been here for a long time. We are here to engage with lawmakers and folks who are interested in our industry and interested in regulating it and interested in any consumer protections. So moving forward, just consider our door is open, and we would like to collaborate as much as we can with anybody promulgating any consumer protection laws moving forward.
Thank you, Mr. Moreland, and I would recommend, you'd mentioned those bullet points, I'd recommend getting with each of the authors maybe and sharing that information. We're in a little bit of a time crunch. We've got Rules Committee that's going to be coming in here in a few minutes, so we do. Yes, please, if you will, come to the podium and identify yourself.
And good day to you, sir. My name is John L. Carroll Menifee. I am the owner, or co-owner, of Solar Time USA. We've been around since 2015, and I just want to share the practices, at least we administer throughout the state, is that we produce an energy usage graph for our clients. We try to help them understand what their energy usage is. We always say, starting out, we need your 12-month electricity usage. Then we show how their usage is versus how much their solar energy production is. And then from there, we let them make an educated decision. There's no high-pressure sales. We're not here to push people to close anything. There's one client that he pays like $1,500 for 3 months during the summertime, and then his bill drops to $300. Hey, solar's not for you. We're not trying to burn your pocketbook. We don't want you to say anything negative against us. But then there are actors out there that do, they're not ethical, and they're into high pressure sales and closing the client right then and there. And I would suggest that before we start going into making bills and make it harder for companies like myself, companies that are members of the Georgia Solar Energy Association. I'm on the board. I sit on the policy committee. I listen and participate with our lobbyists and all about the best policies for Georgia. But as far as boots on the ground, we need to work together before we put bills out there that could hurt the industry, hurt jobs. We want to keep good jobs in Georgia, but we cannot have people hurting our client base. So that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Okay, if you'll, 1 second, we do have a question, Representative Gullit.
Yeah, I just want
Ma'am?
to respond real fast. So I agree with you, and I want to thank you for being a good steward of the solar installation process for residential people and helping people who this does benefit. This bill, my bill, and I don't think Representative Thompson will speak for a bill. I don't think either one, we're not trying to put barriers in place to stop you from doing business. We're trying to put barriers in place for bad actors to have to overcome, not good actors to overcome. And that's the goal, I think, of these two bills, is really to help you get more clients because you're the good people installing these, and to help the bad people hit the road and go somewhere else because they're not, their business is not welcome in Georgia. Good actors' business we want all day. So.
Yeah, and I like just respond to that, and I appreciate that. That's where we have to have that dialogue, because we're the boots on the ground, and we know what certain statements that would probably turn people off rather than on. Me personally, I don't prey on senior citizens. I understand that. And I'm just totally against people who do to turn a dollar. We, as the board, we do hear of that. of the larger nationals that come in. They have their people all over the place, and it's just like it's totally unethical. It's a machine, you know, it's not a service. So we want to make sure that we are supportive. I'm all into laws now. I mean, we got to have a law to drive down the street with insurance because somebody get hit. We want to make sure that people can fix their vehicles and fix their bodies. Laws are important, but to make sure that the laws work for the community, the solar community, and as well as the consumer rights, because we have the NREL, the National Renewable Energy Laboratory, okay? They have 3 pillars of consumer rights, solar consumer rights. Number 1 is to make sure that the equipment is registered under what I think is UL testing laboratories, that the equipment works, okay? Second of all, can the installer perform, okay? Are they a licensed electrician? You know, can they do the work, okay? Number 3 is the policies, is it good policies so for the consumer. So this is a multiple layer of policies. But yeah, we stand here ready to share my 2 cents as far as legislation is concerned, and thank y'all for your time.
Thank you very much. And if anyone else wishes to speak to the bill, we will be taking this up at our regular committee meeting this afternoon. So at this point, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.